Sony and Microsoft drama. Now, we haven't talked about this, even though there's been developments pretty much every week. There's been some new document released or comment from Sony or from Microsoft. It literally sounds like a divorced couple who's going back into court to fight over something.
Custody over Call of Duty, yeah.
It's crazy. So let me just give you some highlights recently, and you guys might have others that I don't have here, and I want to hear your thoughts on it.
I don't know if you said it or not, and I was adjusting and I missed it, but we on this podcast we kind of avoid the weekly check-in for this drama because it's like they're
sometimes
just
it's not
bickering.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it gets a little samey every week, so we tend to circle back like once a month and be like,
some of this has been juicier than usual this week, so this is fun.
Yeah, it was too juicy this week to pass up. Yeah.
So Sony claims that Microsoft could release a buggy Call of Duty game or version of the game for PlayStation consoles. It said that behavioral remedies would be insufficient to address these concerns because there are myriad ways Microsoft could withhold or degrade access, which would be extremely difficult to monitor and police. So here's what they argue. Here's some of their quotes. If Microsoft failed to comply with its commitment, it would likely only risk paying a fine, possibly many years later. But rivals' access to Call of Duty would be immediately foreclosed, irreparably damaging their ability to compete and ultimately harming consumers. Even if Microsoft operated in good faith, it would be incentivized to support and prioritize development of the Xbox version of the game, such as by using its best engineers and more of its resources. There'd be no practical way for us to monitor how Microsoft chooses to allocate those resources and the quality or quantity of engineers it devotes to PlayStation versions of Call of Duty to ensure that Sony would be treated fairly and equally. Basically, they're saying Microsoft is going to give us the lemon version. And there's no evidence of that. There's no history of that. There's no reason for them to say that outside of them just saying.
It doesn't even make sense because even if, and I'm guessing he's talking like if it's a 4K game, like native 4K, 60 frames per second, the Xbox Series X will hit that, whereas PlayStation 5 might be 1800p at 50 frames per second, where it bugs out a little bit. But here's my thing. That doesn't make sense because you have to remember that Microsoft makes money off the sales of the game. So if the game is now getting degraded on the PlayStation 5, like let's say the PS5 version or PS6 versions aren't as good, and you make that audience angry, they're not going to buy your game. Therefore, it actually hurts them, and it hurts their name and reputation. Yeah. So it really doesn't make any sense. Like, you would want to make it equal across the board because you want to make sure that your name and your reputation stays the same across the board. You don't want, you don't want what they're saying or they're hinting at is that they could be shady. Well, then customers aren't dumb. IGN's not dumb. GameSpot's not dumb. They're going to write articles. They're going to blast that all over the place. That would do more harm than good.
Yeah. Well, there's no historical precedent for them to ever suspect this. That's one. And two, this is so much of a reach that it fulfills the subtitle of a Halo game. It's basically Halo Reach. This is a massive reach, all because they don't want Sony PlayStation gamers to boot up their console and have the words Microsoft come on the screen. In any of their games. They don't want anything to do with Microsoft.
Can we
it already happens for Minecraft, and it probably makes them mad for Minecraft because it's still one of the most played and purchased.
Right. Listen. This is Jim Ryan. There we go.
Listen,
all right,
Jim
let's
Ryan.
Hear from Danny and Jimmy over here.
My friend Jimmy here is ready. He's got the boxing gloves, all right? He's got the boxing gloves. He's ready to fucking throw down, all right? He's getting real tired of what's his face of shit, the guy that always looks stoned and tired.
Billy Spencer.
Yeah, Spencer there. He's getting tired of his crap, all right? They took the baby. They took the baby, and now they're in a custody.
Now they want the house.
They want that. They took the kids, and now they want the house, and they want the clothes and the car, and he has nothing. He's got nothing left, except for his boxing gloves.
I mean, do you think though that like, and call me crazy, and Dan, tell me what you think. Do you think that this is almost Sony coming up with ideas of what they might do if they had this kind of power?
That's what I feel like they're hinting at. Like, hey, we would do this. We do it now. What are you talking about?
I'm like way more straightforward about this stuff. Like, I think like corporate, like all these big wigs and capitalism. He's coming in with the gloves.
He's got a bazooka.
He's got a bazooka.
If you're just
Series
listening, we've
S
got
bazooka.
Dan has Jim Ryan
Oh,
from
man, or
Sony
X,
with boxing gloves, and then Derek just pulled up Phil Spencer from Xbox with a bazooka version of the Xbox Series
Jeff
X.
just needs to put what's his face, Reggie, saying that his body's ready and we're ready to go.
And then Tim can have like a PC Master Race.
I'll have Gabe Newell with just money sitting all around him. Yeah.
But like, I just think like these CEOs from any big company is they're all just a bunch of dumbass children. They're just dumbass children.
Yeah.
It's just dollar signs and they're wearing their fancy suits and it's just money,
Look,
just complaining and just.
Okay, but let me ask you.
Again.
I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you this. And I'm not saying that Phil Spencer isn't. He very much could be. He's coming across much more, him and his company, as much more of the adults in the room.
Sure.
Yeah. But they are
my
also,
opinion.
to be fair, they are in a place of power.
Yeah,
when it
yeah,
comes
yeah.
to this
Sure.
subject. Now, if
They
we're
have
talking
the
about
thing that
console
Sony
sales
is
and
mad
stuff like
about.
that. Yeah.
They have
the
the thing
thing,
that
yeah.
Sony's mad about, you know.
This does tell you a little bit like how much
My
Call of
body is
Duty as a
ready.
third-party game, how much Call of Duty means to both systems. Like PlayStation is panicking.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen them panic, so it means a lot to them.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
would think based off of this news that PlayStation is losing. Like they're struggling and this is going to be another hit. But they're dominating. I don't know. I just feel like I don't have a problem. Again, we don't know everything. We don't have all the insider information. But like
We're starting to get more than we've ever had because all these
well,
documents.
I have never ever heard stuff like this go this public ever. But maybe I
Right.
just never paid attention.
Well, there's more. Let's keep going so we don't.
Well, I
go
think
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the EU regulator operates that way, where they're like, we got to make all this public, so
Yeah,
we
we're
can
gonna
consider the
publish it
public's
all, yeah.
voice in this. Yeah.
So they were accused of also maybe increasing Game Pass prices because of this acquisition, and Microsoft insisted that they're not going to be increasing Game Pass prices. That would really just hurt they would like hurt their user churn, their subscriber churn. So they don't want to do that.
I don't think they can flat out say we're not going to do that though. Like
They
with
insist-
Well, they will
inflation and
eventually,
everything.
right?
No, specifically, they insist Game Pass prices will not increase as a result of Activision merger. That
So they're
doesn't
going to
mean
give a
all
different
the
excuse.
increase.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
was
mean
gonna
it-
say
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree
yeah,
with Jeff. I agree with you.
So they definitely could. Here's another thing that they offered. So they keep offering Sony stuff. If you don't remember, they offered Sony a 10-year deal that they wanted to ensure was upholdable in court. So Sony could come back and let them have it. And they're like making themselves vulnerable to a lawsuit if they don't uphold their end of
Sure.
the bargain. 10 years and they actually put in writing content and quality parity with the Sony version of this game. We're going to make sure it's on par with our version. And then they just recently added on, or they told us at least about the idea of, if you want, you can even put it on PlayStation Plus on day one.
Oh,
And like
wow.
they're even saying we're trying to make this as equal and fair as possible. Now
That was
Sony-
a political. Honestly, I think that saying that is a political thing because anything
is.
Sony comes back with is getting to make them look bad. It's
I know,
totally
well,
gonna make them
Sony
look bad.
Sony said yes, but this could be relying on unsustainable licensing costs, which would force them to raise prices for PS Plus. So that makes sense
They have
too.
the
They're saying
money.
like,
Give me a break.
yes, they're just saying like, how much are you going to charge us for that license to keep that on? PS
I
Plus?
almost think it's as simple as just simply it's simply they just don't want there to be a cutoff. They don't want
Right.
to ever not have Call of Duty, like
Right.
because then it's like after the 10 years, it's like all right, well,
yeah,
no
but
more.
you don't get that. I think what they're doing, especially as Tim keeps reading, like people whine and complain about this stuff, but I understand why his gloves are on and he's throwing stuff. He just wants it all in writing. So the fact that he's saying all these things and making up these ridiculous arguments, he's still getting results from it. He's still getting more and more stuff in writing. So
You're
it's
right.
actually kind of smart on his part. Like I said, and I said this before, that he's coming across as a whiner, but all he's trying to do is get the best deal he can for his company. I think he already knows he's going to lose, meaning
Yeah,
Xbox
the deal's
is
going to
going
go through. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he already knows it's going to go through. He just
Yeah.
wants to get the best deal for PlayStation and
I see.
Sony before the deal is finalized.
It's
I think
just the
there's
fact
some
that it's
truth
such
to
a
that.
public back and forth.
That's
word,
what it
yeah.
is. Like
Yeah.
negotiations work this way. Like you have a standard, and if you just stick with it and you just keep going, eventually you'll get that person to get to
Right.
that standard. But we usually skip all this and we just see this. We're getting to publicly get to see all of it.
Yeah, what
I
has
mean,
it been, like 17 years of Call of Duty every year, something like that, right? something in
Jeez.
that realm.
The
And
board.
so Sony, of course, being one of the major places that this is played, Xbox too. Okay, they're both really popular places to play Call of Duty, of course. But I think they just want to ensure, I like what Derek's saying there, because I think they want to ensure that their experience with getting Call of Duty on the platforms is not dramatically different than it has been. They want to continue to be able to get it from a third party, and they don't trust that Microsoft will operate as a fair third party because they're
Well, if you can find a loophole, that's what they're trying to.
Well, they're citing
eliminate.
Starfield as an example of look how quickly they brought something to be just exclusive when they acquired something.
Oh, like Sony never did that. Okay, gotcha.
No.
Well, so
no,
Jeff,
no.
you brought that up. I've actually seen so many examples of people saying, "You mean this?" and they listed all the stuff that Sony has acquired.
Right.
Immediately,
Yeah.
everything was.
Well,
made
they don't even
exclusive.
own Square Enix, and it's just their buddy, like Final Fantasy's just coming out.
Yeah, but those are deals, and eventually it comes over.
Sure.
I don't know if Starfield
Still not on
will ever
Xbox,
come
though.
over.
Yep.
Yeah,
Still
but
on
I know,
Xbox.
but I don't think Starfield.
They're talking out of two sides of their mouth here. Like on the one side, they're
I would
talking about
talk
how
more like
unfair it is,
Wolverine and
how
stuff.
unfair this is that Microsoft would make something exclusive. This is not fair. It's like, well, they bought it. It is fair, and you do it all the freaking time, all the time.
Spider-Man, Wolverine.
They bought Naughty Dog.
Horizon.
They bought Naughty Dog. Sony acquired Naughty Dog.
Yeah,
Like
right.
that was not. It's not
They've
like they
acquired
came
many
up
studios, yeah.
with everything. No, they acquired Insomniac. They acquired like.
Santa
You're gonna
Monica.
pretend like the next Bungie project won't be Sony exclusive? Come on, like this is.
Can we just talk about how dumb he looks with his mouth agape a little bit like that? Like, we just talk.
He looks like
it is-
he's staring at my tatas.
It is.
Oh Lord.
It is funny that Microsoft is running these full-page ads in the UK papers promoting this Activision Blizzard merger, saying things like Xbox will bring Call of Duty to more than 150 million additional players. I'm like, well, maybe. All right, that's a little over. But they're running ads about this too, which I think is kind of funny, to try to pitch it to the public.
Yeah, I think they're in the public forum at least. Microsoft's doing a really good job coming off like the hero
Big time.
to anybody that's like doesn't really have a bias a one way or the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
So everybody except Fat got it.
Pretty much. Yeah. He doesn't believe anything Microsoft's saying. For
Like-
sure.
He still thinks Phil Spencer's the devil.
Like
Right.
I like to think that in our podcast we typically kind of wave back and forth with, well, this sounds like a jerk. I'm not on this guy's side. I'm going to go with this. Like we kind
Yeah.
of listen to the conversation and figure out.
Yeah, I just want to play good games, man. Like I don't really care where it's at. Like
I do like the drama. Sony.
yeah. Nom, nom,
Sony
nom.
wanted, I didn't realize this, one of their big demands early on was they wanted there to be some assets sold off, including the Call of Duty franchise and maybe even Warcraft. So that way, before this acquisition happens, they can't have those big IPs. And then Microsoft answered in a way that pretty much said, well, then what's the point of this merger? Why would we spend this much money without
Right.
those
Right.
IPs?
Yeah.
True. True.
They didn't say that directly. That's pretty much what the response was, how that's going to pretty much ruin the merger. But they wanted it. But it sounds like the EU Commission is very unlikely to demand any asset sales for this acquisition. So it's unlikely. But that was something Sony pushed for. They tried to get Call of Duty sold off to a third party,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't be part of the deal. Not likely to happen. And lastly, Sony's most recent claim is that all of Microsoft's updated offers, all their current things they're offering, including day one PS Plus, content parity for 10 years, whatever that is, they're saying that this current offer, this merger, would irreparably harm competition and innovation in the industry. They will no longer be able to create games well if this happens.
We will only have God of War, Horizon, Spider-Man, and all these awesome games and
I know.
Final Fantasy. Oh, we don't want to live in that world.
Yeah, it's
I hate this world. It's terrible.
It does
No,
come off. I'm
it-
sorry. I know we mentioned this before. It just comes off a little whiny.
it
when
comes
you-
off very
when
whiny.
It
When it
is.
does come
It's
out to the
very
public.
whiny,
Yeah.
but like I said, I think I know what he's trying to do, but it is
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very whiny.
Yeah, so there you go. We'll keep you guys updated on our thoughts on this. Anyone listening to this, you probably already keeping track of it, but it's fun to talk about it and kind of get
Yeah.
our thoughts on
After
this.
some time
drama.
away from it.
All right,
it's
bye,
fun to
Jimmy.
catch up.
Bye.
Bye, Jim. Hey, good round, buddy. You fought well.
Good round.
You fought those jugs real
I
well.
mean, you were up in the
God.
boxing ring fighting against no one and punched yourself a few times, but otherwise you're
Yeah,
fighting. well.
Bazooka Joe down there with his Spencer down there with his
Yeah.
rocket launcher.